Hello dear students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastav from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. Now coming on to the topic of international human resource management, it is important to understand the various variables or the factors that are very important to actually make the function of human resource management play. Now, these factors are almost related with the internal and external factors of the business. When we talk about the different business environment, we have two different factors, that are internal factors and the external factors. Now, if we talk about internal factors, they are the factors which are somewhat controllable by the organization, like its values, beliefs, then its policies, procedures for the employees. All these factors can be changed according to the changing climate, changing external climate. Now, why do we need this change? So as to adjust the organization with the changing environment, changing external environment. Now, on the contrary, we have certain external factors. Now, if we talk about external factors, these are the factors which are related to the business, which influence the business to a larger extent, and they are not controllable by the business at all. Like for example, we can say the political environment. Now, in the political environment, we take up different governments. Now, governments play a very vital role in influencing the businesses across the world. Now, of course, they come up with different kind of taxation policies, laws, rules and regulations, and somewhat changes in percentages of interest. All these influences the business. Similarly, we can have geographical factors such as an epidemic or a flood kind of situation always affects the business, and the business cannot control these factors. So, whenever we talk about human resource management in international aspect, we need to keep in mind the different external factors that come into play. Now, these external factors are of course influencing the business, and the business is not able to control these factors also. So, accordingly we need to bring about change in the internal environment of the business. So, HRM activities are always performed in a certain particular context. Now, by context I mean to say that as a human resource personnel, we need to check into the various aspects, various variables which affect the business. So, it applies to all either different HRM activities which may be required for a global firm as compared to the domestic firm. Now, all these activities, if we consider the activities of human resource management, they all play their own functions in the influence of various contextual variables. So, we have following four major variables which affects human resource management, and due to which the human resource management functions are important to be understood. So, they can be cultural diversity, workforce diversity, language diversity and economic diversity. Now, here by diversity word, by diversity term, we mean that difference in various external factors that the business is having. Now, of course, when we are talking about international human resource management, it means performing all the human resource activities in the international terms. Now, at the international level, whenever the organization is expanding its business, it is always going to face different kinds of diversity, because in a different country different cultures are followed, different values and beliefs, ethics are followed. Then we have a various variety of workforce, then languages are very different, and of course, the economic condition of that country. Now, all these four major contextual variables, they play a very important role in forming the international human resource management. Now, coming down to the very first factor, that is the cultural diversity. Now, by culture we mean that whatever rules, regulations, norms that are followed by different cultures, by different people, followed in the society, in the international environment. Now, cultural diversity exists in 5 dimensions. Now, when we talk about organizations, cultural diversity has the following 5 dimensions, like individualism versus collectivism, power orientation, uncertainty avoidance, masculinity versus femininity, and time orientation. Now, we need to check all these 5 cultural dimensions, these were given by Hofstede, to understand the external environment in the international context, and then also apply these particular diversities in the planning of human resource management in the organization. Now, very first one is individualism versus collectivism. Now, when we talk about individualism, it means talking about self. That means whenever the culture in the organization is followed as an individualism culture, it means the person is more concerned, he gives more place value to himself and his family. That means he gives a priority priority to his family and himself in the organization. So, of course, on the contrary, if we talk about collectivism, it means giving priorities to the groups the person belongs, to the team the person belongs. So, these are the two varied kind of cultures which are which can be formed in the organization. So, of course, for some times at some instance we can have individualism as a culture, but for the other instances, like if a particular person is working in team on a particular project, then collectivism kind of culture should be followed, so that maximum productivity, maximum output of that particular project can be taken out. So, efficiency is somewhat related to individualism and collectivism. Then comes the second one, power orientation. Now, power orientation means orientation of authority, where the authority is vested in the organization. So, it is very much related to the extent to which less powerful people accept the unequal distribution of power. Now, over here it is very important to understand that not all people will be able to accept the power orientation of an organization. Now, somewhat, of course, somewhere there will be resistance among the people who are less powerful, who are having less authority, and if this power is unequally divided and equally distributed in the organization, then more and more resistance can be there. So, it is important that whenever the distribution of power takes place or delegation of power and authority takes place in the network of human resource management, it is important that the human resource people, they imply power directly related to merits, directly related to experiences of the people. Now, of course, if we relate it with the experience of the people, the other people are always in a level of accepting the person with power. So, power orientation will somewhat help the organization to distribute it equally in the organization, and of course, influential people with large kind of good kind of leadership ability, they should be placed at a higher positions, so that the people are willing to follow them, people are willing to follow their instructions, rules and guidance, and of course, there is lesser number of resistance against these people. So, people refer to be in a situation where authority is clearly understood and lines of authority are never bypassed. So, of course, whatever responsibilities you are vesting in the organizational structure, we have already talked about organizational structure, it means dividing the people, dividing the organization into various levels, the lower level management, the middle level management and the higher level management. So, these lines of authority should be very clearly maintained, very clearly visible to other people in the organization, like they should be able to understand that who is the CEO or the founder person of the organization, then who are the people who are at the managerial level at different departments, so that they understand their lines of authority, they understand that whatever with authority they are having, they are vested with more and more responsibility. So, if there is more of a transparency in the power orientation of the organization, it becomes very important, it becomes very easy for the human resource management to understand the people, their psychology, and people are willing to cooperate with each other. On the other hand, in a culture with a less power orientation, suppose we have a less power oriented organization, then there not only highly respected or employees are quite comfortable circumventing lines of authority to accomplish jobs. Now, of course, if we talk about an organization where power orientation is lesser, so more and and more people will be in a confused state of mind, they will be less satisfied with the network, with the organization structure of the organization, and of course, everything will be depicted in the performance, in the productivity, and ultimately the efficiency of the organization. So, we should very much understand that the power, authority or the lines of authority should be very clearly maintained, should be very clearly depicted through organization structure, and they should also be depicted in various code of conducts or books of organization, where people come to know through this organization structure that who is placed at what position in the organization. Then comes the third cultural diversity element, that is uncertainty avoidance. Now, if we talk about uncertainty avoidance, uncertainty means those situations about which the person is not able to understand what would be the outcome of this particular situation. Now, sometimes people are risk taking, they like to take uncertainty as a challenge or a risk. So, over there they will be accepting it as a future from the point of view of their own future, but sometimes people may not accept uncertainty at all. They are uncomfortable when uncertainty comes. So, uncertainty avoidance is also known as preference for stability. People who like stability, they do not take risks, they do not take challenges at all, and they avoid uncertain situations in the organization. So, it is the extent to which people feel threatened by unknown situations, and they prefer to be clear and unambiguous situations. They prefer to be in a very clear and unambiguous situation. So, they do not want to move on darker roads, they do not want to move on risky roads, where they are unable to judge the outcome of those particular goals. So, in some countries, on the contrary, people prefer unambiguity, they prefer to take challenges, they prefer to take a darker road without being afraid of what would be the result of that particular road. So, we have to understand, as a human resource management, we have to understand the psychology of the people, psychology of the employee whom we are going to hire, that to what extent the person is liking the stability or is able to take challenges in the organization. So, according to the job profile, according to the job description, we are going to hire the people according to their risk taking abilities. Then comes masculinity versus femininity. Now, when we talk about masculinity and femininity, of course, these two are two opposite kind of terms. When we talk about masculinity, it means giving more of an importance to assertiveness and materialism. That means a more dominant value in the society, it emphasizes on aggressiveness and acquisition of money and material goods. So, on the contrary, if we talk about femininity, it is all opposite of masculinity, where people's overall quality of work life, then again satisfaction level, the level of quality of work life that they are being offered in the organization, all these things are being considered under femininity. That means the person that the organization is not only taking care of personal aspects of the employees, but also the organization is taking care of all the other aspects, other physical structural aspects of the organization with respect to the employee. Then comes time orientation. Now, when we talk about time orientation, it means time scale on which the organization is working. So, if the organization is working on certain time scales, we have two time orientations, long term and short term. Now, when we talk about long term orientation, it focuses on future. That means people prefer to work on projects which have a longer kind of outcome, which have a long lasting outcome, and which have a lasting outcome on their futures also. So, they prefer to work on projects having a distant payoff and have persistent and thrift. And on the contrary, if we talk about people having short term orientation, that means they do not look very far off, they do not have a very longer vision for their future. They just decide on the past activities and the present activities of the organization. So, we have to see that the preference of people goes into which direction, either they are long term oriented or they are short term oriented people in the organization. So, we have this particular diagram from where we can understand the lower side of lower and the higher side of all the cultural aspects that were given by Hofstede. Now, the very first one, if we are talking about the first one, power distance, if the power distance is high, that means the organization embraces hierarchy, a number of nodes are there between the top level management and the lower level management. On the contrary, if we are having lesser power orientation, lesser power distance, there an egalitarian kind of organization will be there. Then comes collectivism and individualism. Of course, if individualism is more, the people are more concentrated toward their own growth rather than the growth of the organization or the growth of the group they are working in or the growth of the team they are working in. On the contrary, if it is a collectivist kind of organization, the people are more focused to work with team, work with groups in which they are working on a particular project in the organization. Thirdly, uncertainty avoidance index, if it is on a higher side, of course, people will be more uncomfortable because of the uncertain situations they are going to face in the organization. Now, if we talk about international human resource management, of course, a number of uncertain situations will be there that the person will be following or will be having. So, of course, in international human resource management, it is important that we take up people, we hire those people or actually send those people to the overseas operations who are able to deal with these uncertain situations and do not avoid them at all. On the contrary, if this kind of index is lower in the people in the organization, people will be more comfortable with uncertain situations. They are able to take risks, they try to take up various decisions in various situations that come up in the organization. Then comes femininity and masculinity. Of course, femininity is directly related with nature important, that means caressing the employees, giving them some kind of social and welfare security, then caring for employees and other aspects. Masculinity is directly concerned with the importance of power in the organization, or you can say materialism or acquisition of money in the organization. So, there should be a blend of femininity and masculinity in the organization, so as to make the things work, make the policies and regulations that are made by the human resource management work in the organization. Then comes your short term and long term orientation. Now, when we talk about short term orientation, it means the people are ready to work in a traditional kind of environment with a very short term goal. They do not want to change themselves, they do not take up newer assignments, they are just concerned with past aspects as well as present aspects, but they lose their vision when we talk about the long term aspect of these people. Similarly, if we talk about long term orientation, more of the futuristic and long distant dreams can be satisfied of the organization. Then comes the very last one, restraint and indulgence. It means how far the people are able to indulge themselves in the society, in the culture they are going to work in the international environment. So, the cultural factor is a very important factor when we talk about it in the international terms at the international level. So, this kind of diversity can be there if the organization is going to work in the overseas market. So, of course, these particular aspects should be kept in mind, and the organization should not go in for only single kind of element of cultural aspect. It should keep a blend of people of these type of cultures from different organizations, and also while hiring people for the international operations, the organization can go in for hiring from the internal sources as well as the external sources from the same country, home country itself, or from the host country. Then we have the second one, that is the workforce diversity. Now, when we talk about workforce, it means the human resources of the organization, the people in the organization, the actual resources who are working in the organization. So, in terms of international human resource, when we talk about workforce diversity, of course, a large number of people and types of employees come into play. Why? Because the organization is not only working in the home environment, it is also working in somewhat what host country environment also. So, we need to understand that when we are employing people from the same country as well as the people from other country, there can be a diverse difference between the thought process, working style, cultures of these two countries. So, there a balance can be done by with the help of this understanding of workforce diversity. So, workforce diversity is increasingly becoming important for large organizations, even in domestic ones. So, even if we talk about domestic environment, we have a large variety of people coming from various backgrounds, coming from various states, working in the organization with their own past experiences, with different mind frames. So, some of them may be very flexible, they start working in different teams and groups as if they were there already, but sometimes we have people with their own mindsets, with their own mind frames, who do not fit into the organization very well. They take time to fit into the organization structure. However, in a global firm, additional workforce diversity comes when hiring of people is done from different countries. So, of course, a group when we hire people from different countries also, we have again add to the element of workforce diversity. A typical global firm may draw its employees from 3 types of countries. So, when we talk about workforce diversity, we can have people from 3 countries, that is the home country, who are called as parent country nationals or PCNs. We can have people from host country, those who are called as host country nationals, where the subsidiary of the company is established, and the third country nationals, that is the TCNs. These are the people from the nation where neither the headquarters are located, neither the subsidiary of the organization is located. So, in a global firm, workforce diversity can also be seen in context of employee mobility from one country to the another country. So, why do we understand this workforce diversity? Why is there a need to understand the diversity in the diversity amongst the people who are there in the organization? Why? Because through this diversity, we will be able to understand the willingness of the people who will be ready to move to the different countries for the overseas operations. So, mobility pyramid helps in this particular function at a very larger extent. What does mobility pyramid does? Mobility pyramid actually distinguishes 6 types of people who are ready to who range from none of the willingness to most willing people to move out of the country. So, the top levels, that is globals and glopats in the mobility pyramid, we have those people who are very ready, who are most willing to move to the other countries for a long term assignments of the company and are willing to work in the other countries in a very satisfied manner. So, on this basis, an employee can be put in one of the following categories. Now, when we talk about different kinds of people from different countries, that is parent country, host country and third country, we have these 3 types of employees in the organization. The very first one is the expatriate. It means it is referred to the people who belong to the parent country, who have a citizenship of the parent country, and they are sent for long time assignments to the host country operations. So, these people are called expatriates. Experienced expatriates with multi skills are being sent from the home country to the host country in the subsidiary to set up subsidiary offices in the host country. And why they are set? Because expatriates are moreover informed about the varied culture of the organization. They are informed about the policies and regulations of the company they belong, and they are going to follow similar kind of culture or policies, rules, regulations in the host country also. So, mostly expatriates who are sent from the home country take up the top notch positions in the subsidiary companies. Then comes impatriate, a host country national or third country national assigned to home country of a company where it is headquartered. So, these are people who are from the host country or a third country, and they are assigned a job in the home country. So, this is an opposite of expatriate, and sometimes we have impatriate. We hire impatriates. Why? Because they are rich in their experience level, and they are moreover skilled in their own some specialized area. Then we have repatriates. Repatriates are the people who want to come back to their home country after the assignment is done. So, sometimes people are not able to adjust with the host country environment, and they face a lot of cultural shock when they are there in the host country. And of course, in the absence of their family, in the absence of their spouse in the host country, they feel more lonely in that whole host country. So, they try to come back to their home country as early as possible. So, they try to end up their foreign assignment and come back to their home country. So, they are called as repatriate. Now, sometimes expatriates who move out of the organization, who move out of the home country along with their spouses, they also want to return to their home due to many other reasons, many other personal reasons. So, they will be termed as repatriates. So, we have expatriates, impatriates and repatriates when we talk about employees in the organization. Thus, workforce implies to various categories of employees, not only bring their who not only bring their skills, but their expertise along with their attitudes and motivation to work. Then comes your language diversity. Now, of course, when we talk about international human resource management in international level, the language diversity plays a vital role. So, when we move to the other countries, mostly English is there. But a country such as Germany, where German language is there, and other countries UK where English is there, then other countries like Russia where Russian is there, we need to check out that will the organization be able to handle this language diversity with the help of expatriates only. So, people need to be multilingual, or we need to hire the people from the same country itself. Now, both of these decisions have their own outcomes. Now, when we talk about language, language is a medium of expression, but employees coming from different countries have different languages. The employees coming from different countries may be encouraged to learn language of the host country for better dissemination of information. Now, of course, we need to understand that whoever people we are going to hire, either from the home country or the host country, the languages they are aware of. Either they are aware of English language, or they are aware of the other language that is spoken in that particular country. Now, if the people are not aware of the language that is spoken in that particular country, it is important that they are being trained to understand, trained to learn the language of that particular country, or they should be able to hire people from the host country who are aware of this particular language, because if this language barrier is there, it will be very hard to disseminate various kinds of information of the organization. So, of course, when we talk about dissemination of information of the organization, people understand more in the language that they understand, their local language, in their local language. So, it is important that the people who are disseminating their language, disseminating their information, it has to be done in the same language. An alternative to this is to send multilingual communications. It implies that anything transmitted to employees should appear in more than one language to help the message to get through. Then comes the last kind of diversity, that is economic diversity. Now, when we talk about economic diversity, it means the economic condition of the particular country where we are going to do the business. Now, of course, if per capita income of that particular country is good enough, then the organization will be able to generate more and more revenues from that organization, from that country. So, economic diversity is expressed in terms of per capita income of per person in that country, in different countries where the global company operates. Economic diversity is directly related to compensation management, that is paying wages or salaries or other financial compensation to the employees located in different countries. So, of course, if the per capita income of that particular country is not that much, it will directly affect the wage package or the salary package of the employees in that country. For example, if we take up Nigeria as our external country, so over there the per capita income is less, so wage salary will be lesser. So these kind of 4 diversities are needed to be understood by the people in the human resource department, so as to hire people of various diversities into the organization for the success of business of the organization in the international market. Thank you.